Hey guys, it's Confetti, and I am here to show and talk through what I think of the new Sion cards. I wasn't planning on doing any videos like this, but when I saw Sion and his cards with him, I got so excited. I was like a kid at Christmas. And we'll kind of just jump in and we'll go through the cards together, and I'll let you know what I think, how strong I think they are, and what their uses will be. So obviously we have Sion to start with. He's the main draw here. He's the big boy. He's a 7 mana 3/6 with Overwhelm, which is a bit lackluster at first until you kind of read his card. When he is discarded, grant your strongest ally Overwhelm and place me into your deck. I have +1/+0 for each card you've discarded this game, up to a maximum of 7, so you'll cap out at 10/6. He levels up when you've discarded or summoned 35 plus power. Right now I'm not sure how easy that level up will be to reach, but we'll keep having a little look and have a look at his leveled up form. So when he's leveled up, he is fixed at 10 power, which is nice. Still has that same 6 toughness, which is a little bit unusual for most champions. Usually they do tend to bump that up, but it is what it is. Still got Overwhelm. He has Last Breath, Summon Sion, Returned. When I'm discarded, grant your strongest ally Overwhelm, place me into your deck, just the same as before. Sion Returned, when I saw this in the video, I got so excited. I let out a little squeal, I'm not going to lie to you. This card, so you will be summoning this. It doesn't go to your hands and you have to play it out. You summon it. When it is summoned, you rally. So let's assume you attack with your Sion. Your opponent will either kill it before it attacks with a vengeance or something, block into it, and your Sion will die. I'm assuming that's what will happen most of the time. If not, I'm assuming you've got your Sion and your opponent kills it. Will be particularly useful if your opponent is trying to kill a pre-leveled Sion, and then you can level it and get this nice little effect out of it. And it rallies, and it's a 10/4 with Overwhelm. It is ephemeral, dies at the end of the turn, but oh my god, this is so crazily strong. Once you get to this point, it means you are hitting your opponent in the face for 10 damage at least once, potentially twice. And that's like, if you manage to do it twice, that is your opponent's nexus of health, unless they have some frostbites or they have some just big blockers on the board, which is only going to happen some of the time. I am insanely excited about this card. Obviously this fits into most discard kind of archetypes. We'll probably see it first in kind of P&Z and Noxus. I'd imagine this will go in a little bit more of a mid-range shell than what we have seen so far. So rather than being full aggro, go wide and then use your crowd favourites and stuff to capitalise on that width of your board, I feel like this, especially looking at some of the supporting cards, probably leans to a little bit more of a traditional mid-range deck. So where else would this fit? One place I really want to try it, and it probably isn't very good there, but that's not going to stop me, is I really want to try this in a Noxus P&Z Vi deck. So I want to get Vi up to a 10 power, discard something at instant speed with a Rummage or something like that, and give her Overwhelm, slap something in the face for a bunch, and it'll happen a lot quicker than what it would with Sion. I'm really excited to try that, but I'm very aware that it probably isn't great. Could similarly fit quite well with like Riven, especially if you use the Arena Bucky card to give you more gas to keep on going. There's probably other things that I am totally not seeing which this would fit in amazingly well, but I am just really excited about this card. It is kind of a little bit soft to Hush and similar effects before it is leveled, because you are playing a 7 mana 3/6, which, you know, not great, not where you want to be. And, you know, as the meta evolves, this could just be too slow a card. It potentially could see players like a 1 or maybe a 2 of in your current discard aggro decks to give them a little bit more late game. But I'm just excited to be able to brew with this and play around with it and figure out what we can do with it. If we move on to his champion spell, Sion's Roar of the Slayer. Obviously there's a normal Roar of the Slayer. To play discard a card, kill the weakest enemy, create a Sion in your deck. So when I very first looked at this card, I thought it wasn't great, and it probably is. It's never going to be a meta staple. I don't think every Noxus deck will be playing this card. I think that's silly to imagine. But what I do really like about it is Cullen Strike has seen play, and that is essentially target a creature with power 3 or less and kill it. I feel like currently, and like obviously I'm assuming we will see some balance changes coming with Bandle City, But right now, a lot of the things you'll be targeting have 1 power. I'm thinking things like Azia's, Eye of the Dragons, other such kind of engines that sit on the back. Like, your Cullen Strike can be fizzled, which is why it doesn't get played at the minute. So many people are running Shaped Stones and Twin Disciplines and stuff. This allows you to kill those same cards, but doesn't put you at risk of a fizzle. Even if you might not kill what you were aiming for, you kill something, which means you haven't gone down in card advantage, and while you're not gaining as much tempo as you probably wanted to get, you are getting some. It is more narrow in its application. You do also have to discard a card, which can be a plus in the right decks. This could potentially end up seeing play in like your Ezreal Draven decks. If we get these new kind of discard mid-rangey decks appearing, it could see play. I like it, and I want to be optimistic. I'm not super confident that I will see loads of play, but I would like to see it, and I think it's worth experimenting with, if nothing else. Ancient Warmonger is the last one on this little screen. We do have 3 more screens worth of cards to go through, so there is plenty more. Don't worry. This one, I don't think there's too much to say about. It's 5 mana, 5/5 with Overwhelm. When I'm discarded, grant your strongest ally +2 attack. Yeah, it seems like a worse vision to me. It does double as a body in the mid game, but I can't see too many uses for it unless you're trying to go Voltron style and stack up into one really big creature. Using kind of discard things, I'm assuming you would have Draven in there for your axes. You'll probably be running Visions anyway. This card, yeah, I'm not sure I really see a home for it in a deck that currently exists in the meta, and even then I don't think it's probably the best card to play. Yeah, I'm not too sold on this one, to be honest, although it is worth noting that it isn't just until end of 10, it is for the rest of the game, so it might be a little bit stronger than I'm giving it credit for, but I still don't think that's great. Next up we have Fallen Reckoner, and this Risen Reckoner is a token generated by this card. So it's a 5 mana 4/3 with Overwhelm, which is a little bit of a lackluster body. But when we look at the effects, it kind of makes up for it a little bit, I guess. When I'm summoned, grant can't block to the weakest enemy. I don't think that effect on its own is amazing if we take it in isolation of just this card, because of the fact that it has Overwhelm already. If it didn't, and it could easily be chump blocks, I would really like that effect. I think that effect would be much, much better. But as is, it's just kind of okay. If you have other cards that have quite big stat lines and could just be chump blocked, especially if they don't have Overwhelm or Fearsome or something, it becomes a lot more valuable. However, where I think the power in this card actually lies is in its last breath effect. Create a Risen Reckoner in hand, which is this 3 mana 6/3, so it's actually a better stat line for less mana. Overwhelm an Ephemeral card, which has the same effect on it. This is kind of like a 2-for-1. Or if you don't get that 2-for-1, if you just get a 1-for-1, you also just get to throw 6 damage at your opponent's face, which feels really good. I'm not so sure this goes in the same deck as Sion in those discard decks, but any more aggressive kind of mid-rangey Noxus deck probably likes these cards. Especially because the Fallen Reckoner itself, you'll be really happy to just Noxian and favour that. And knowing safely that you get that Reckoner into your hands, it makes your opponent's removal feel terrible. I'm quite a big fan of this. It feels like a good target to stack buffs onto as well, because your opponent's kind of incentivized to not kill it and leave it on the board, so it leaves them in a lose-lose situation, which is always a good place to be in these kind of games. Next up we have Fallen Rider. I really like this card. However, when I've tried doing a little bit of deck building already, I'm always struggling to try and fit it into the deck. I feel like there's a lot of 2-drops that these kind of decks want to play, and it could definitely be a strong one, especially with the Fearsome. But I'd kind of want to get into a few games, see how the meta settles, before I definitely say this is an auto-inclusion, you have to play this card. But oh my god, it looks strong. So it's a 3/1 Fearsome for 2 mana, which is pretty acceptable. I mean, I'm quite happy with that stat line and that keyword. It's like, if we just ignore its effect, that feels pretty good. When I'm discarded, create a Risen Rider in hand, which is just a better version of itself. It just gets better. It's a 4/2 Fearsome for 2 mana. It got better, which means it is ideal discard fodder. You want to rummage this away, you want to use your get excited and discard this cards. Like, you want to discard something. You want to discard this and just get a really good body for like a 2-mana 4/2 without losing the card advantage you would have otherwise lost. Probably not based on the decks you'll be playing it in, but that's besides the point. I do like this card a lot. I just don't know if the other like cheap units that we can play overshadow it. But the more I look at it, the more I like it. And that card, that art is just sick. I love it. That is so cool. Oh man. With this card, we do kind of have to look onto the next slide, but I'll just read the card to you first so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. But I actually really like this card. I am going to be putting this in every discard deck. It is an 8-mana 5/4. Crap, right? Nah. It's good, trust me. When I'm summoned or discarded, create Twin Blade Revenant in hand. So, if we jump onto the next slide, Twin Blade Revenant is a 4-mana 4/3 challenger with Last Breath, create a Lost Soul in hand. So a 4-mana 4/3 with challenger is decent. It kills a reasonable amount of stuff. I think we have to compare it to Merciless Hunter, which is obviously a 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome and gives something vulnerable, which is kind of similar to Challenger in a lot of ways. So, I mean, we're looking at the same gifts for Renekton that we're used to looking at. It targets the same cards. But it has this Last Breath effect, which means that you are happy just to use this as a 4-mana deal 4 to something. You can almost look at it as the Arachnoid Sentry plus Flock combo, which is also 4-mana, but you don't end up with that 3/2 body, and instead you get back this 8-mana 5/4, which you can then discard or summon again and get this card back again, which is just like a cycle that is so hard to break, because the only way you can break this is with an Obliterate effect. I am really excited for this card because it just generates so much value, and you don't even have to wait till turn 8 to be able to get that value, because you can discard this on turn like 3 and get this card ready to be played, and then when that dies, you get the value back and you can use it in the late game. So it's a card that is good as discard fodder in the early game. In the mid game, it is a removal piece, and then in the late game, it is just a recurring threat that your opponent has to deal with every single turn. I'm really excited for this. I think this is a good card. I think if you look at it at first glance, probably quite weak, but when you think about it in that step further, that feels so good. So next we have the Noble Rebel. It's 3-mana 3/2 with Overwhelm. Feels a little bit lackluster just on its body, but grant me +2/+1 once you've discarded 3+ cards this game. This is something that I've kind of ummed and ahed on, and I keep flipping between. This is a really good card because, you know, you're probably going to have discarded 3 cards relatively easily. I mean, that's like a Rummage and a Zornite Urchin, which kind of curves into this card, you know, and you can activate that at burst speed with things like your Rummage or at fast speed with a Get Excited. So you can kind of almost use it as a pseudo combat trick, which is pretty nice. That 3-mana 5/3 stat line with Overwhelm is really aggressive. If you were attacking, that feels really good. On the defense, it's a little bit lackluster because it will get traded into by a lot of common 2-drops with that 3/2 stat line we see a lot. I think this is probably a pretty good, pretty solid card. But I feel like there will be competition for the 3-drop slot, especially with things like Draven, which probably fit into a similar archetype. I think it's probably pretty solid, and I think it's definitely worth trying out. And I could totally be proven wrong by this card, and it could be absolutely incredible and be an all-star. And I would buy into that. Yeah, absolutely it could be. But right now, it doesn't excite me that much. It's a little bit bland, although that art is pretty cool. That's the kind of thing that I think would make, like, if any of you guys play D&D and you want a little portrait for your character, I think that'll be an awesome one to pick. Up next, we have the Reborn Grenadier, which is obviously the Legion Grenadier art and just twisted a little bit. I really like that little callback to a card that we've all seen a million times. I think that's really cool. It's a 1-mana 3/2. Again, that 3/2 kind of calling back to the original card. With Ephemeral, to play, discard a card. When I'm discarded, summon an exact copy of me. I'm not sure what to make of this. So, obviously the 1-mana 3/2 stat line is pretty good. If we look at if we look at Legion Rearguard, that's a 3/2 that can't block, and that sees play in a lot of aggro decks, and this can block. However, it is ephemeral and you need to discard a card. So you are playing a card, you're playing a unit which will die at the end of the turn, and you're discarding a card for it. So you're almost just losing 2 cards. It's a big card advantage loss. If you can discard something valuable with it, I could potentially be persuaded a little bit more. And when I'm discarded, summon an extra copy of me, so it is both like a discard enabler and kind of a payoff. You want to both discard this card and it will let you discard other things you want to discard, which is nice. It makes it flexible. It's kind of a little bit like Wings in the Wave, which came in the last expansion, where it was both a sacrifice payoff and a sacrifice enabler, which is, it's good. It's good. It fills 2 roles. However, I'm not sure this is going to see a lot of play. It might fit in there just to round out the 40 cards and help smooth things a little bit. But I don't think you just want to be slamming 3 of this into every deck that has any kind of discard theme in it. I don't think you just want to be slamming 3 of this into any deck that just has some kind of discard theme in it. Okay, up next we have Salt and Stitches. It's a 2-mana focus card. I think this is the first Noxian focus card that we've seen. To play it, discard a card, summon a Reborn Grenadier and give it +2/+0 this round. So I think this makes Reborn Grenadier a lot better. Bearing in mind, twice the mana, it's 1 extra mana. But you can use spell mana for it, which is nice, and it happens at focus speed, which won't always be super relevant, but in times it will be. You still have to discard the card to play it, but one of the things that I do think favours this one over the Reborn Grenadier on that front is this is a focus speed discard card, so if you need that quick discard enabler, this can do it for you. Let's just say, for sake of argument, you need to get a Flame Chompers down to drag away a lifesteal unit to the right of the attack so they don't get the benefit of it. It will let you do that at focus speed without giving priority back to your opponent. So that is a use of it over Reborn Grenadier, but it is relatively niche. But the fact that it comes in as a 5/2 makes me feel a lot better about kind of it being an ephemeral body that just disappears. At that point, it's kind of comparable to Waking Sands, with discard synergy in it. Waking Sands, however, does not see play as a main deck card. You only ever really use it off the back of a Treasure Seeker. With this being focus, it might be a bit better, rather than the slow speed that we see on Waking Sands. I can see this being played a lot more than I can see Reborn Grenadier itself being played, but I'm still not super sure this is, again, something that you're just going to slam 3 of into every single discard deck. The penultimate card, and it's a little bit lackluster, sorry to let you down, guys. It's an 8-mana slow card. Deal 3 to a unit and summon a Trifarian Shieldbreaker. In case you forgot what that card is, it is a 6-mana 6/5 with Fearsome. I mean, it's kind of okay. So if you think of it this way, at slow speed, we are getting deal 3 damage, which is generally kind of a 4-mana effect if we look at Gotcha and if we look at Aftershock. Or it's a 3-mana with a discard on, if you look at Get Excited. And it gives you the Trifarian Shieldbreaker, which is a 6-mana card, although it's not a particularly good one because it never sees play. Bundles them both up into 1 card that isn't that great. Like, yes, you get a kill an opponent's card and you get a decent body onto the board, so it is a bit of a tempo swing, but it is slow speed, and we don't ever really see slow speed removal get played in this game. If you were using it more just to summon the creature, I can be more convinced by it, but it's still not something amazing you're summoning for 8 mana. One place this could be pretty cool is if you were playing a Senna deck, so you could play this fast speed, at which point it's like, you know, I'll kill that thing and I'll get myself a blocker at fast speed, which your opponent's not expecting. Could be decent. I still don't think it would make the cut, to be honest. Okay, so the final card, and one that I think could actually be auto 3 of in every discard deck, is Grave Physician. So, it's 2 mana, 2/2, with a play effect, discard a card to draw a unit. I cannot stress how good this is. This is good in both your more aggressive discard decks and your more mid-rangey feeling ones. So, I'll break down why a little bit. The thing is you need discard enablers in any discard deck. Obviously, this does this. So, great. You've got a discard enabler that gives you a body as well. That's nice, kind of Zonite Urchin-y, you know, that kind of thing. And it will draw you a unit as well. And that just feels so strong to be able to have that 2/2 body which can block into Sand Soldiers, unlike Zonite Etching. And then be able to draw you another card on top of getting the benefit of whatever discard effect you had. That feels really good. It's also a good way to turn things like ignitions from ballistic bots into actual card advantage. It's cheaper than your Sump Dredger, and it's a better body than the Zonite Etch, and I think it fits quite a nice slot. And something that's worth mentioning, especially because we're comparing it to those two cards, which are both very good cards, and it might be a little bit weaker than individually, but this is in Noxus as well. It's not a P&Z card, so it kind of frees you a little bit from having to stay in P&Z with the discard archetype. You probably still want to if you want to try and play competitively and play the strongest decks you can, but it does enable that a little bit, and I think especially seeing some of the other tools we have here, it means that discard is no longer a P&Z and Noxus archetype. It means that you can play it with something else. Exactly what else, I'm not too sure on. There could be I'm sure you guys have thought of something. Let me know in the comments whatever you want to play Noxus discard in that isn't P&Z. But I'm very excited for this. Also, spooky Gandalf, man. Look at that beard. Magnificent. Anyway, thank you for joining me while I get excited and waffle about these new cards. I have not been this excited to play with new cards in quite a while, to be honest. I've liked all of the cards that have came out, but this is the first time that it's really properly got me hyped and excited for something so much. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time.
Tell the people what you have seen today.